What's up, people? We are in the last round of the Norway chess, and Magnus Carlsen, the best player in the world, and the world champion GUKESH are in the last two positions. So this game decides who is going to end in the last position of the tournament. Magnus Carlsen opened with e4, c6 by GUKESH, c4 by Magnus, and d5, of course. Takes, and knight f6. It's better to try to capture this pawn with the knight, because okay, if you can take with the queen, but now I can win some tempos developing the pieces. So have more sense, yeah, recapture the pawn with the knight. Knight c3, knight d5, knight f3, knight c6, that's everything very normal. Bishop g5. Here, g6 is the other possibility to trying to develop the bishop via g7. By the way, e6 is normal. So castle. And here, I don't like the move by GUKESH, because he developed the bishop to e7, which is the main move. The majority of the people play like that. But I don't like bishop e7. I think that it's better to place the bishop on d6. Because let's see normal play by white as Magnus playing the game, for example, d4, sword castle, rook e1, bishop d7, bishop d3, rook c8. This is the same position that they reach in the game, but with the bishop on d6. And for example, if white now makes a quiet move like a3, just improving a little bit, here black have this extra option of knight e7, going to the knight to g6 or to f5, mostly to g6, but okay, he can recapture on d5 too. So improve, and is opening the rooks too. So we saw the first idea of why the bishop is better on d6. And the other reason is that here, after knight takes d5, e takes d5, it's more or less clear that the bishop is better placed here in these two opens diagonal than on e7. It's more or less clear that here the bishop is better on d6 than on d7, on e7. So bishop e7 is not my favorite move by GUKESH. d4, Magnus plays all the normal moves, the bishop d7, bishop d3, rook c8. And here, for example, if Magnus just play a quiet move like a3, here GUKESH cannot play knight e7. But Magnus play knight d5, which is interesting too, changing the pawn structure. He goes from an isolate pawn to another pawn structure with the symmetrical pawn structure. I don't find the word. Knight d5, e d5. Now interesting move, knight d5, trying to have the initiative. h3 was another possibility. By the way, knight d5 was fine. And here GUKESH should play the fourth line and try to complicate the game with knight takes d4. That's the best response. Of course, if queen h5, the position is a draw. After takes and draw. So I suppose that Magnus Carlsen didn't want the draw, and he have planned bishop h7 here, king takes queen d4, but after bishop f5 the position is more or less equal. So knight d4 was a good option by GUKESH. g6 was playable. Okay, but he played bishop f6. Now Magnus developed the bishop. The bishop can be developed to other places like d2 or e3. By the way, bishop f4 is normal. And now bishop e6 was an important prophylactical move, because now white is playing queen b3. That's the idea of white. And with bishop e6 you are stopping that move, because after queen b3 knight takes d4 is coming. So bishop e6 was an interesting prophylactic idea against queen b3. Instead of that, GUKESH, I don't know if he underestimated queen b3 or he just don't think about his opponent plan, and he played a normal move as g6. Now great move by Magnus, queen b3, attacking d5, attacking b7, knight a5, queen b4, bishop e6. Now Magnus just still developing the pieces, rook e8, h3. And here comes the first mistake of GUKESH. Till here, okay, Magnus is playing slightly better, but black position is not horrible. But here came the first mistake of GUKESH, who was bishop e7. Yes, because after queen a4 you are not making so much with bishop e7. Was stronger a6 to play bishop e7, and after, for example, if white doesn't make nothing, control alt 0. If was black turn again, you can play bishop e7, and if queen e4 now you have b5. So that's the idea of play a6 first before bishop e7. Because after bishop e7, queen a4, queen b6, here we have this very strong move, bishop b5, attacking the rook. Here, now b3 for example. a6, and the key is that the bishop is entering on d7, trading the d7 bishop and opening the d5 for the rook. And okay, black have this tactic, sacrificing the exchange and reaching a completely winning position. And if you take here, white is better. So this bishop b5 was very hard to, it was a great move. Magnus Carlsen preferred to just take the bishop pair, who is more in the style of Magnus Carlsen, just go for not the small advantages, but yes, just not solid advantages maybe. Just take the bishop pair, play in a positional style, and have a advantage of a long-term advantage. Bishop take, queen takes, knight c6. He take the pawn, but okay, black is active and one of these two pawns are going to fall, so GUKESH is going to recapture the pawn. Of course, he recaptured the pawn, but now white is slightly better because he has the bishop pair. And black is going to recapture the pawn, but with the bishop pair, white is better. Rook d4, rook d4, and here GUKESH play strange, play knight d4, trying to activate the pieces, but it's not the best idea because with knight d4 you are sacrificing this pawn. GUKESH had an idea of rook c2, but he probably missed this very strong move by Magnus, bishop h6. Was just better play bishop d4, the normal move, and still playing, but of course white is slightly better. Because with knight d4, bishop b7, rook c2, now bishop h6, a great move by Magnus. Knight e6, now another great move, rook c1, trading the rooks. After take, at least GUKESH is going to take back the pawn, but the white king is going to be so close to the center, and the b6 pawn is going to be a huge weakness. So bishop d5 here, knight a4, just taking the b2 pawn, but now the white king is more active than his opponent. Now white have the king on e2, and the other one is on f8, and the b6 pawn added to the bishop pair, who is very strong in open play, is just completely winning for white. Magnus Carlsen just have few seconds in the clock, under a minute, but he doesn't need more time in the clock to win this game. King f8, bishop e3, no, great. Magnus Carlsen saw a great technique in the endgame. Knight a4, king d3, and we are seeing that the b6 pawn is going to fall. f3 here and king d5 are slightly better, but okay, king b5 is winning anyway. Of course, you can take the knight because okay, you take a pawn, but now with opposite color bishops, the position should be a draw. So we'll play by Magnus, just keeping the bishop pair and finally grabbing the b6 pawn. Now black is going to find counterplay against these pawns, but the a4 pawn running is unstoppable. Knight d4, bishop c1, knight f2, bishop d5, bishop d4, king b5, and now just Magnus first defend the king side, and now finally he starts to run with the pawn. Just running, activating the king. Now the king can help in the queen side, can go to the king side to take the pawns. h5, bishop c3, improving the bishop. King here, bishop f6, going for the pawns of GUKESH. e4, he just take the pawn. And here comes the final touch of Magnus Carlsen, the decisive winning move, bishop d4, trading the bishop pair and trading some pawns, but just having a winning position. After takes f3, interesting move, because okay, you can take on a6, and if you don't make nothing with white, black is going to just game with the king and take this pawn. So good move by GUKESH with f3, bishop takes, king takes, and now great move by Carlsen, bishop d5, completely controlling the knight and now being ready to push the g pawn, and the position is winning for white. This king is so far. If this king was on g7 or just on d8, could be draw, or if this knight was in a better position, but the bad position of the black knight and the bad position of the black king makes the position completely winning for white. King b6, he tries something, but just g4, g5, king e5, placing the king diagonal against the knight, great technique. King e7, g6, knight h5, and after bishop f3, GUKESH resigning in view of, for example, knight g7, king here, and now bishop g4, again controlling the knight and later king f7 is coming and white wins. So good move, good win by Magnus Carlsen in the round, who, okay, of course he doesn't make his best tournament, but at least he won 3 games and he finished in the 4th position, because Gamer lost against Prague, so he finished ahead of Gamer and Prague. So let's see if in the best tournament Magnus Carlsen and especially the world champion GUKESH can make better performance. Bye bye.